This episode of Kapow is brought to you by Joey Statham at Copperleaf Properties. Joey is a lifetime multi-million-dollar producer. If you want an agent you can really trust, one that will really listen to you, you need an agent that knows how to effectively market and sell your home, give Joey Statham a call at 256-494-7544. That again, 256-494-7544. Joey Statham at Copperleaf Properties. Also brought to you today by Mac Butler and Butler Electric. If you're looking for a competent, reliable, and a very professional outfit to handle your electrical services and needs, you need to give Butler Electrical Contractors a call today at 256-442-4255. Again, Butler Electrical Contractors, 256-442-4255. Hey guys, I'm your man Jeff Underwood, and always he's not even on his phone today, and that's pretty amazing and pretty special. Yeah. J-Dub White, what's going on, buddy?
That's true. You know, first of all, before we get started in this historic interview, I have to say happy anniversary to my beautiful wife.
There it is.
How in the world has she put up with me for 24 years? Little James, 24! So, love you, baby. Have a great day. Not that she watches.
I don't understand it either, Kelly, but congratulations.
Yeah. So, anytime we get a man of this esteem from the great city of Tala, go blue, Mr. Deverick Williams, welcome.
Good to be here. Thank you guys for having me. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, buddy. It's been a long time coming. We've hooked up a couple times, but it just couldn't work with family and illness and things that are going on. And you've been on the hearts and prayers of a lot of people that we know, and your family certainly has. So thank you for coming in. You're a bright spot of our Tuesdays at the council meetings when you speak. And I don't know how. I have to ask Jerry a couple times. How does he remain so calm?
Oh, wow.
I mean, you are just chill.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I was diagnosed hypertensive several years ago, if I plan to be around here a while, I probably need to take it easy.
That'll do it.
Well, the first thing you can do to take it easy is get off the council.
Yeah.
So y'all stressed, man. Y'all been under some pressure. Why did you decide to run for council in the first place? I know you're a big leadership guy and a big doing things yourself kind of guy. That has some impact on it?
Well, to some degree, but I think one of the big things, and this hadn't changed in the 12 years that I've been serving, but I asked myself the question, what am I doing in my community to offer up that level of service? And at that time, I was doing a lot professionally. I was doing some things to advance myself, but my children were hitting the teenage years, and just there was. I really couldn't highlight anything that I was doing because of work. I wasn't able to serve on a lot of boards and do some of the things that I wanted to do. So I made some professional sacrifices to run, and have had to do that for the last 12 years to some degree. But it gave me an opportunity to get in the fray, if you will, and be a part of the process. And I'm proud of what we have been able to accomplish, because I'm no fool. If I can highlight anything, that's happened while I've been an elected official, none of that has happened just because of me. It's happened in partnership with a lot of good people and a lot of bright people.
I'm trying to think, besides Cynthia Tolles, which one's bright?
I didn't say they were all on the council.
Okay, I'm with
Previous, maybe.
I like it.
That's
there's some good guys.
No question. You have to watch the council meetings on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
It's like must-watch TV. I'm going to record it. I want to play it back. My favorite episode is when Ben Reed is pointing at Jason Wilson. Sorry. I went to Medlin.
That quiver in Jason's voice may have been real that day. I don't know.
A lot of that's just really happened in this last term. It was pretty benign for my first 2 terms. Yeah.
Look at you now, though.
Yeah.
Shining star. Talk a little bit about your family. Let people know, kind of get an inside look of who Deverick Williams is.
Well, I'm a lifelong Gadsden resident. My dad is a retired rubber worker. My mother is a lifelong social worker. my kids are from the area. Pretty much my entire family is from the area. We've all lived here. I unfortunately haven't had the luxury of working in Gadsden for many of my professional years, but I've always lived here and do appreciate being a resident of Gadsden. Mm-hmm. As we talked about earlier, Jerry, that's the dilemma. I'm an Etowah High School graduate. But if, truth be told, most of us that migrate over here do extremely well. So that says something about the education system there.
That's a theme. Yeah, it's a theme.
But we were talking teachers.
Yeah.
That had impact on our lives. I'm going to let you talk about that. I want to mention one, too, that to impact Earl Hurd. You remember Earl Hurd? Had nothing to do with teaching in Tyler. But
dear friend,
he would teach you something.
Yeah, I love Earl Hurd and what he's done in his life, and I just love the guy. I know I don't bring him up enough. And Mr. Graham, if you remember Mr. Graham teaching back in the day, that's an impactful man. Yeah,
Earl continues to be a dear friend of mine. My dad and I both, when I was in college, I worked for his janitorial service, during the breaks, and made a little extra money working with Earl. He's been a long-time supporter of mine. I love him and appreciate it. He and his beautiful wife. Steve Smith is his son-in-law, and Rita's their daughter. So just long time friends of the family.
How many people has he put to work?
A lot of people.
Oh yeah, a lot of us.
He had a revolving door. I'm gonna get you employed, but counseling inside that employment office. I mean, people go in to see Earl to counsel. My sister and Rita grew up together, graduated together, and we're co-head cheerleaders together at Litchfield. And I don't know how Earl is still sane. Let's just be honest. I mean, Rita will tell you it's Jesus, right? It's all Jesus. But I don't know. But
he's just a great guy. Genuinely good guy. Yeah. Jeff. I mean, genuinely good guy. And then of course, Mr. Graham. God bless him. He beautiful family. Sandra Graham is an educator as well, or retired educator now. But Mr. Graham, he was, most of us, even the good kids, got a taste of that paddle in his room. I mean, his famous saying was, "You're cruising for a bruise."
Why did you it's like you were starting to do some of them rear end exercises when he said he had
a flashback.
I felt the wrath. It's pretty exciting. His grandson, Jamin, transferred to JSU. So that's pretty exciting. But, I just like to go back a little bit, reminisce about people who's made impacts. And most of the time it's a teacher, believe it or not. It's a teacher. It has so much huge impact.
Well, like I was telling you guys before we got started, if for anything good that you can say about me, a lot of that, originated through my educational experience in the Attala City school system. I had some teachers that just genuinely cared about me. When I see them now, I get phone calls now. If I use improper English during my comments, I get a phone call. Hey, that's not what I taught you. So
we've blocked on YouTube and Facebook our English teachers. So you talking about hypertension? We throw them into stroke level when they hear us.
I hear you.
Well, let's get down to the matter at hand. I mean, we've known each other and have respected you from a distance, and you've to be in community service. This coming up you'll be running for your 4th term.
That's correct.
In the city of Gadsden. Talk a little bit about your community, District 2, and just a little bit, brag on your community a little bit, things that have happened over the last 3 terms and things that you look to happen in the 4th term.
Yeah, so District 2, D2 as I like to affectionately refer to it, is just a wonderful district made up of a lot of good people. Yeah. I will never forget, God bless her, she's dead and gone now, but Miss Betty McElroy. She lived right off of Ewing Avenue, what was the old 411, and I'll never forget being out campaigning, and at that time I was running against a 2-term incumbent, J.R. Countryman, and so I was out working hard, just meeting people, and walked up to her and just asked for a vote. And I'll never forget this little lady. I sat there and talked to her for a while. She showed me her woodworking shop in the back of her house, and She actually later made some wood pieces for my kids. But I'll never forget her looking at me and saying, "You know, I really like you. I do. You're a fine young man." She said, "Now, you know I can't vote for you. I got to vote for JR. but I really like you." That's and funny. After I won, I went back and I said, "Well, I hope I can garner the level of loyalty that you gave JR." She said, "You got it. I'll vote for you for as long as I can." And she did. She was a big supporter.
That's awesome.
And it's just that kind of, hey, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care who you support. You know, when I win, you know, I'm here to serve. And I'm here to support you, and so that's kind of what we've done. And so for the North Gadsden portion of District 2, for the East Gadsden portion of District 2, we've just tried to do things that encompass. I mean, you're not going to please everybody, but we try to do things to encompass the needs and the desires of everybody we serve. So you try to pay attention to the request for street paving. You know, I've been fortunate. I've got some CDBG low to mod areas in my district, so that allows me to draw some extra funding relative to paving and drainage work. And so we've got some big drainage projects that are coming down the pike.
Much needed.
The obvious impact of and one of the obvious centerpieces of District 2 is the thoroughfare that is Meagan Boulevard. We've seen a lot of development. Now, COVID obviously has put a strain on a lot of those businesses in the area, but through the support of the Grissom family and some other folks who've really invested in that area, you know, we've seen some things develop and happen over the years. So it's a brand new place over there. You know, I was elected in 2010. I started in 2011 working on that community center. And that was just walking in periodically just saying, hey, you know, Mayor, let's talk about how we're going to retool these community centers. And I want to start with mine. Because that's the plan. Eventually we would like to get around to all of them.
Yeah. And, is that one is soon to be open or is open?
It's soon to be open. Yeah, there's some things that were kind of unforeseen that have delayed the opening.
Sure.
We've got to get everybody trained because it's state of the art. It's going to be really nice. Right. And I know everybody's excited. People are anxious. They're ready to use it.
It's beautiful.
But yeah, it's a really beautiful facility, and it's a game changer for that community.
Yep.
It's going to have the potential to really change and it's going to provide some much needed lighting in that area. So I'm excited. I'm excited about it, and if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, we'll be talking about legacy later, but if not, hey, that's definitely something that I'll be able to establish as a legacy for me. So
absolutely.
So obviously, I'm in that district a lot. I work there every day at Tamron. Come get a Honda. I get this question 2-3 times a day from customers coming in. We do a lot from Atlanta and Chattanooga, Huntsville. A lot of customers come to our dealership. What's going on with Goodyear? Is that the way it's going to be? Can you speak to that at all?
Well, the city doesn't own the property, so it's really hard to speak to it. What I will say is that, I don't know that anybody that's being honest with you really knows what Goodyear is thinking.
The grass looks great, though.
Yeah, they're keeping the grass down.
Yeah, looks good.
The valuation is really unclear, so I can't really speak to what it would cost if somebody wanted to stroke a check.
I've heard stupid numbers.
Yeah, but I don't know that Goodyear knows at this point. So there have been some people interested. There have been a number of people that could utilize that type of building and that type of property. Both domestic and international, but that's I'm speaking very generically. I mean, there's been some interest, but I don't think there's been any serious movement at this point.
Anybody reached out to Bill Davis? He loves buying more buildings and redoing.
Or the Church of the Highlands.
Well, they just built.
So,
we digress.
That would be one heck of a thrift store combination some kind of super center if Bill bought it.
Strip-a-palooza. It certainly would.
I love that you guys are making light of it, because I just laugh sometimes when I hear some of this stuff. I'm thinking, where are you getting this? I mean, where did that come from? But and if you don't mind, I'll just I'll dovetail into just economic development in general. This time of the year, and this is for everybody in the general public. This time of year, you're going to get a number of elected officials or prospective elected officials who are going to walk up to you and say, hey, when I get elected, I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to call the governor's office and I'm going to call Google and I'm going to call Facebook and I'm going to call or Meta, whatever they're called now. And I'm going to call all these people and I'm going to tell them to come see Gadsden. I'm going to schedule meetings and go see them and tell them about Gadsden. That's not how economic development works. Okay. And I want to be really clear about that. That is not how economic development works. By its nature, economic development is very, very secretive. Very secretive. I mean, by its nature, because of the land cost associated with it, because of some of the proprietary issues associated with people relocating operations or building new operations in new markets, there are just a number of things that cause for that whole process to be somewhat clandestine. I mean, let's just be honest about it. So there's nothing illegal about that. It's always been that way. The current council and mayor and current set of elected officials didn't create it. That's just the way it is. And so, I think people just really need to understand, and take it from somebody who was just like some of these guys. When I first ran for office, I'm going to engage in a letter writing campaign and I'm going to get Microsoft here. And I did. And you know how many of those hundreds of letters that I wrote got returned? None of them. None of the phone calls, no meetings. I don't even know. I still don't think they know where Gadsden is. Probably. It just doesn't work that way. Right. And just to be quite honest about it, let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the rendering.
I thought I was talking about me for a second.
You're not quite 800 there.
Thank you.
No, but I mean, let's for those that are wondering, how did that project get here? Quite simply, that project obviously was brought to us by a site selection consultant that typically works for German Tier 1 suppliers. And so that group obviously was working on behalf of JBS and brought the project at some level to Alabama. And there were a number of people involved. There was a sitting U.S. congressman involved on the front end. There were obviously representatives from the state's economic development engine that were involved. There were a number of people that brought that, and it didn't come to Gadsden first. I think people need to be clear about that.
I think most people know it was right. Etowah County was the Etowah County Commissioners was the first hand or the boots on the ground there.
Yeah. And so and of course then it came to us and let's just be clear. It's truly unfortunate that consideration of this project has kind of morphed into a negative publicity and to some degree false information campaign. I mean, it's just kind of not been what it should, and I get it. I mean, if I own property close to that prospective site, I probably would have been against it too, to be quite honest. I mean, those folks have very good reason. And let's just be honest, if I'm an employer close to it and there's that challenge of me potentially having to raise wages and do some other things in response, I may be against it as well. And so I get that. I mean, honestly, I don't knock people for what they had, the position that they took, and you kind of have to admire, honestly, the collaboration community wide. But what you can't really respect is just kind of the tenor of a lot of the commentary. I mean, it just got really negative. Very, very mean-spirited to some degree, and but and then it even kind of bordered on just honestly just lying about a lot of different things. And I think one of the things that was just really misstated and misquoted was this whole notion that we were holding secret meetings and all that stuff. I mean, again, there is a level of confidentiality that comes with economic development.
It has to be.
But the city council as a group, never really conducted any clandestine meetings. And let's just be clear. I mean, none of those guys up there, including me, I'm probably the closest thing you're going to get, but none of those guys up there, including myself, are experts on economic development. So you don't want us, kind of leading the charge.
Not your forte.
And let me be very.
Yours is, yeah, I can see you going that direction.
Well, I mean, I've been on the other side of the table from an employer perspective, but honestly, you don't want any of our sitting state representatives either. None of them.
One for sure.
Yeah. No, not even none of them, but especially one.
Yeah, I definitely. Well, yeah, I'll stay away from that.
That gets on Jerry right there. Just me.
But you don't want any of those guys leading the charge. As it relates to the candidates that are out there, you don't want. You guys had one on here not too long ago that talked about scheduling meetings and making phone calls, and ridiculous, because that's not how it works. So again, the unfortunate thing as an elected official in the city of Gadsden is that it's really unfortunate that the city council never really got to. We didn't handle this one any differently than we've handled any other project that's come to us, whether it's through a site consultant, whether it's through the state economic development engine, or some other means. We give them all the opportunity to present their case, and some we say yes to, and some we say no to. People forget we said no to the windmill project. You guys remember that when that happened? We said no to the windmill project. In large part because the community spoke up and said, hey, we don't want it. We said no to a medical waste facility in East Gadsden. You guys remember that one? And Wayne Rowe came to the CEO of Quality of Life. He came to the city council and said, hey, you know what? Because the public doesn't want this, I'm not going to bring it here. And it's very, I think it was very big of him to hear the
He's
cry.
a class guy anyway.
No question. No question.
Love the family.
To hear the cry from the community, and then the city council backed it. They backed the community and backed him. So I think we've demonstrated. It's just amazing that we've demonstrated in the past that we're going to be even-handed. We're going to hear what the prospective companies have to say, but all of a sudden, we get to this project, and all of a sudden, before we even get a chance to consider anything, we're demonized. And I just think that's unfortunate. To a large degree, it's unfair, and I just really hate that it's kind of because for there are going to be a lot of opinions about where we are in terms of economic development. But I can tell you that the toughest job that the new mayor and council is going to have is to rebrand Gadsden, because we are not being viewed favorably by those very same site consultants who were looking at us favorably before.
Oh, it was definitely a black eye on bringing new business. We can talk about a company that looked very closely at Gadsden and chose Tennessee just recently. I don't know if I can say what that is yet, but I know. But to be fair, from an outsider looking in, the tone of the city council, and I'm going to use it as a whole, not picking on anybody, but the tone got very obtuse. It got very, I'm talking down, not every member, but as a whole, that was the tone led by the council president, to be fair.
Those guys were frustrated, and I don't want to try to...
I'm sure I was next level. I'm not saying I wasn't either. But I'm saying from outside looking in, it got bad. It would have been better to not broadcast it. Not for me, because I love watching it.
Honestly, it's one of the things I said in the beginning. Let's just not talk about it. It wouldn't be the first time people have come to city council meeting and protested or spoken out. So just give people their platform. They deserve that right. But But I think when the attacks started, and then of course, there wasn't a whole lot in the way of open dialogue between the community and Pilgrims. I don't guess there could be. I don't know, but at the
executive session limits some of that, right?
Yeah. The confidentiality agreement. I mean, they can't say a whole lot, but at the end of the day, I mean, all of the attacks, it got kind of vicious and
it got personal. It wasn't just as a councilman or councilwoman. It was, or a mayor. It got personal.
And that's what caused them to respond, Jeff.
Sure.
I think a lot of them just there were some of them that just aren't wired to take it.
Right.
And that's unfortunate because it turned our meetings into somewhat of a circus, and I just And again, my first 2 terms, it's something that I learned from Mr. Eccles. We're not, this is not about us. It's not about us. Let people have their say. People are going to have some opinions. Many of them will be informed, but some will be very uninformed. Right. But you still have to kind of let them have their say.
Right. What does the council do to move past this, to put this behind us?
Well, we're kind of in that lame duck area of for a lot of people, but I think what the city of Gadsden's got to do is rebrand itself. That's what has to happen, and it needs to be done at a pretty aggressive level. It needs to be done at a professional level, in my opinion. But we've got to rebrand ourselves.
What would you do in rebranding if you could implement the ideal scenario when it comes to this is what I would like for Gadsden to be known as? What would that look like from Deverick Williams?
Well, I think Gadsden's got to be bigger than this opposition movement, because that opposition movement is largely non-minority. It's largely all white. It's largely not indicative of what Gadsden is. It doesn't highlight and accentuate Gadsden's true assets. And so I think whatever campaign you engage in has really got to highlight, the fact that we've got a river running right through the middle of our town, and not everybody can say that.
It's freaking gorgeous too.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It could be incredible.
We've got I don't care what time of the day it is when you ride in and see that bridge. I mean, it's beautiful. We've got a mountain range and a waterfall that a lot of people can't really claim, and so you have to highlight those kinds of things. You have to talk about, the intellectual assets that we have. You have to talk about Gadsden State. God bless Dr. Murphy, because she is stepping in, and right now she's playing the right music to move that place forward economically, and she's got a great vision for what the school can do educationally. So I'm excited about that. But that's just a few of the assets that you've really got to grow, and we honestly have to get out of. We've got to get out of the way of our economic development professionals and let them do their job. David Hooks didn't pay me to say any of what I'm about to say.
Here comes the argument.
David's an asset.
I've heard him almost using those terms.
Yeah. Almost, yeah.
Over the last year, sure, yeah.
But I don't know if you guys remember Mike McCain.
Yes, absolutely.
And so Mike McCain was a similar asset in that Mike had a history as being a part of the state's economic development engine. And in his latter years, he decided to come to Gadsden and support us. So a lot of connections, well-connected individual. He knew the site selection consultants, and so it kept Gadsden on the radar. Now, we're constrained to a large degree. It's one of the reasons why we've been very deliberate since about 2008 in converting the airport property for industrial use. You guys may remember that they were actually trying to build houses out there at one point.
I do remember.
Do you guys, anybody know why they were trying to build houses out there?
I would like to say.
Yeah, so I won't say, but I think we all know why.
I won't even say that.
But at any rate, one of the things that we realized very quickly, that project would have been triple upside down on itself had it moved forward. Right. So thank goodness Sherman came in and or Mayor Guyton, I should say, came in and ended that and converted that project. And it was a very arduous process to convert that property for industrial use, because a lot of work had been done to build houses out there. And so you had to go through the whole environmental process. You had to go through the historical process. I mean, it was just very much involved. And so, so that gave us space to grow industrially, not the big fish projects, but, some small to medium-sized projects.
We need those too.
Yeah. But we also... The reason I brought up Mike McCain is because it was important. He realized very quickly that we weren't going to land the big fish because we didn't have the space. We didn't have the acreage, but the county does. The county does, and that's, the public needs to understand, the mega site needs to be developed.
No doubt.
That benefits all of us. And it's why the city of Gadsden and its economic development engine was instrumental in having them added as an advanced site, an advantage site. That didn't happen through county resources largely. It happened through a report and a study that was done by the IDA, that was paid for by the city of Gadsden, and the political connections that are associated with the EDPA. Through the city of Gadsden, through Frankie Davis, through Mike McCain at the time, that led to them being added without a railroad, without municipal infrastructure, without any of those things. Oh, that $6 million that later came for railroad development, that's David Hooks. That's David Hooks and his connections. So, I think what we're doing politically is we've kind of started working against ourselves when we've got assets right here, people that are connected right here. Let's just be honest. I have an aspiration at some level when I get closer to retirement where I would love to be in industrial recruitment space. But how many people that look like me are in industrial recruitment space? If David has no other asset, he's an old white guy in that industrial recruitment space.
Emphasis on the old.
Well, he needs to learn how to protect his emails. Fair.
That is fair. Fair.
That's a true point, right?
Yeah, sure.
Check your email. Wu-Tang said protect your neck.
Yeah, they
right,
did.
So let me ask, you're talking IDA. You brought it up. I did not. Who does the IDA answer to? Who does David Hooks answer to? Who controls the IDA?
Well, we fund them. The city of Gadsden funds them. So he
controls them?
He has a board that as an executive director, he has a board that he reports to. All right, and the city of Gadsden has some influence because we not only fund we not only fund the organization, but we have some representation on the board, and so look, they're not set up any differently than any other public-private partnership in the city. I mean, the Commercial Development Authority is set up the same way. Lisa Osborne reports to her board, but to some degree she has the answer to the mayor's office, to the council.
To Frankie Davis.
He's a member of he's a part of the mayor's staff, but she doesn't report directly to Frankie.
Bro, from my towel. We don't know. Frankie. We don't know what happened. Well, I don't want to bring this show about that. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about you and your run, what you've done, and kind of your goals, and having integrity, which I think is unbelievably important. Some people just throw that word around. You live a life of integrity, and it shows.
Well, again, I'm not perfect by any stretch.
I didn't say that.
But
I know your friend.
Absolutely. But God bless him. My former pastor, Maurice K. Wright. I miss him so much.
Bishop.
I really miss him so much. And I used to say often that it's just hard to live any kind of way and be under his teaching, because he's gonna step on your toes when you sit underneath.
Well, that's who my best friend is, right?
Yeah.
Have your best friend as your pastor.
Absolutely. But I always appreciated how approachable he was. I mean, he played spades with us. He played cards with us. He played softball with us. He played horseshoes.
Pretty competitive too, from what I understand.
And I want this doesn't get stated enough. Bishop did not care if you were African, Asian,
nope.
Hispanic, from the planet Mars.
Nope. He did.
He loved people.
He did.
That's true.
Right.
That's
so
true.
I just want to. I miss that guy.
That's true.
Yeah. He's we definitely have a chasm in the community without him, and you know, it's going to take some work for somebody to step up and fill those shoes. Yeah. But and again, he was a man too. We didn't worship him. He wasn't perfect, but he had a great heart. Had a good heart.
That we call him. He wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but he invoked a lot of fear and respect when he walked into the room. A lot of times, I mean, he just did. Yeah. You could say that's the anointing. You could say
it's the Holy Spirit knocking people out.
Right. Maurice is coming, but he is very, very, very much missed for sure.
And I know there's some. Speaking of the mega site, I know there's stuff coming. You can't talk about just yet, but we'd love to have you back on when that does break down, so we can really go into details. It's so hard holding my tongue on this stuff.
So, mayoral candidates that we've had on a couple, a couple of 3 or 4, and some we think, man, it's a shame they're not going to get the momentum behind them that they deserve, because probably could do very, very good.
Speaking of, what do they call you back?
Thomas? No, he didn't call me back. You call from your phone. Oh. Thomas, he's still on the golf course. It's going to be 65 today, so he'll be out there today, taking Jeffrey Washington's money. So anyway,
you just said that.
Easy, my bad. Sorry.
I just stopped. I
didn't know why. My bad. I love you. Okay, so we've had some candidates on. One especially talks about I'm getting rid of the occupational tax. Talk just briefly, real quick. Because there's a lot of people yelling loudly about the occupational tax. Where does that money go? What? Tell them, because it's very important, that 2%.
Yeah, it's you know, so the history, you know, was enacted in the 80s, I believe, and so none of us that are around now were responsible for enacting it back then. Really, the purpose, you know, a white flight happened in the 80s.
I hadn't heard that. You said that twice. I hadn't heard that since the Clinton administration.
Yeah, so
that was big during the Clinton administration.
So you had a lot of people with the means to service mortgages and who had you know decent jobs, better than median income jobs, moving out of the city, and so your revenues are at risk. You know, the financial stability of the city is at risk. And so whether they were, you know, ingenious back then or not, they realized the opportunity was there to replace some of that revenue for the city by enacting an occupational tax. And part of what you have to understand is that Gadsden is the city seat. And so, you know, whether people live in Gadsden or not, they're migrating back to the city generally during the workday and on weekends to eat, play, visit exactly, buy Hondas. I bleed little red H's, so you gotta know. But yeah, I mean, just to do a lot of their business in the city, and so you have to maintain the infrastructure. As a newly elected official, one of the things that I did is when I came in, I looked at a study that was done by Stern Agee of the city of Gadsden, and they recommended, they made some recommendations in terms of restructuring. You know, but they talked about the fact that, you know, we had reduced in population from 50,000 down to where we are now, 37,000. And you know, I guess conventional wisdom says, well, why don't you reduce your spending? Well, it's not a luxury we have because, again, we're the city seat. And so we have to maintain our infrastructure to be able to support all that traffic and things of that nature. So almost $15 million of the $53 million budget is made up of the occupational tax.
How much was that when Goodyear and Steel Plant was? Do you have the numbers? Because when it was enacted in the 80s, Steel Plant's still going, Hannah Steel, and then you got Goodyear still going. So that number is probably considerably higher.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it wouldn't be as drastic as you might think, but yeah, it was definitely higher. Okay. It was a higher number, and so yeah, we saw. Over the years, we've seen that number decrease some, but it's still a very significant part of our budget. Sure. Again, we're constrained. We're geographically one of the smallest counties in the state. And so that growth from a residential and industrial standpoint, can be difficult to come by if you're not being creative. It's why, we're moving in the direction of maybe some military presence at the airport and some other things. I mean, there's a lot more going on out there than people realize. Maybe not as much as we could be doing. I would agree with that, and I think even the mayor's office would agree with you there. But again, you can't do everything, especially when you're having to put focus on some areas. But from an occupational tax perspective, I would say that people really have to understand that right now our budget is about 70% personnel cost.
Wow.
You can't run a good lemonade stand spending that much on people.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about adding to it by doing some very notable things and some probably needful things in terms of raising wages of certain classifications within the city. But again, I think you can't knee-jerk that. You got to be smart about it because, again, that number gets up to around 75, 80%. I mean, 20% of your general fund budget's going towards other important things. And so you got to be smart about it. And then if you start talking about taking away your occupational tax, that almost $15 million out of your budget, I mean, that's going to put even, I don't want to be a councilman when that happens. I really don't, because it really it really constrains you in terms of being able to be effective. I'm so proud of the fact I've been finance director for 2 terms, so for almost 8 years. We're right at about $21 million in the bank.
That's awesome.
We are that much healthier, not just a little bit. We are this much healthier than any other municipality in the county, and I'm very proud of that because we've made some good decisions. We've done some smart things, and we're there's some other y'all may have heard our city engineer talk about all the projects last week. Poor guy, I would have never asked him to stand up there and do that, but
gutsy.
But again, just a lot of big projects on the way. I'm excited about the sports complex that we're working on at Gadsden State.
Beautiful.
Not sure if y'all heard me make the comment, but I'll say it again. One of the proudest things about that for me is that it's being built right there where these minority and poor kids can get to it.
Absolutely.
Because this one that's being built in Rainbow City, they may or may not be able to get to.
All you got to do is get to the top of the hill and then coast down to the complex.
That's right. That's right.
I used to do it all the time.
Yes, so you said the employment rate is about 70%. So someone said, if you remove the salary of David Hooks and Frankie Davis, they may get you down to like the 50% range. Can you confirm or deny?
I will vehemently deny that. That is absolutely false.
If the occupational tax goes, just a brief snippet, what are the top 2 things that we'll see a negative impact? It's going to be people, right?
Yeah,
you're going to lose employees,
and you start losing services. You start things like outsourcing public works become more of a thing now. So we give up control. So the customer service level will probably dip some.
No longer calling your councilman and saying, "Hey, can you come over here and call somebody to get these sticks picked up off the side of my road?"
Absolutely, you lose a lot of control in that regard. I mean, and again, those jobs have to go somewhere else. Parks and Rec's the same way. I mean, you'll lose some Parks and Rec, and you'll lose the ability to address a lot of your street improvement and drainage issues. So, that money just doesn't, other than us just keeping some in the bank for a rainy day. I mean, we watched what happened to Tuscaloosa when they got hit by the tornado, and we don't, God forbid, if something like that happens, we want to be in a position to where we can absorb to some degree the hit, but continue to function.
If Goodyear and the steel plant left before 2006, before Sherman and the 2008 before the new council came in, what happens to the city of Gadsden at that point when we all know there was $0?
Bankruptcy.
Correct.
Yeah, likely bankruptcy.
Right.
Yeah, at that time we were over leveraged as a city. There was a lot of projects out there, but likely bankruptcy. So one of the best things that Sherman Guyton and his administration did is they were very deliberate about correcting the financial situation for the city.
Why is that not more important to the citizens of, well, it probably is for the city of Gadsden, but why is it not important to the people surrounding areas? I mean, it makes no sense to me. Maybe because they're not fiscally responsible.
Well, I won't try to speak to that. But yeah, I won't try to speak to that. I know that they don't always have a vested interest because they don't live in the city.
Right.
And just again, you know, we talked, we addressed the 800-pound gorilla. Let's talk to the elephant in the room now. And the elephant in the room is
now he is talking about
Phil picked on.
I wouldn't dare call you an elephant, Jerry. But you know, let's just be clear. We are viewed on that city council as largely a minority body, and so you know, I don't think we make an easy target.
You're talking about the old people.
We make the old people.
Yeah.
We make an easy target. We make a convenient target.
Well, I think Ben Reed is so white that we need more minorities to balance it out. That's the way I always look at it.
Ben, I want you to know every time he mentions your name, when he gets your name in his mouth, it's not my views. So when you see me, pull your hand out to shake. Don't pull that gun. No. Just remember.
You can't say that. You can't say that word.
I can't say it. Okay. We love you, Ben. Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
You guys know he's having surgery. Or just had surgery, shoulder
that.
surgery. Yeah, so he won't be there today. But yeah, so get well, Ben. Get well,
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, we make an easy target from that perspective, and hey, you know, whatever floats your boat. You know, I don't take it personal. I've lived in Alabama all my life. I know how Alabama. I know how Alabama politics works.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
I mean, look at our state legislature. You know, on the Republican side, it's all white. Yeah. And on the Democratic side, it's, would say one or two, it's all black. I mean, it's just, it's divisive in that way. And then start watching these political ads that are airing now. I mean, I honestly thought that I witnessed a greasy comb over George Wallace moment. I really did. I mean, because I mean, that's what they look like. I mean, that's what they look like now.
So, well, alluding to that, let's kind of go to the other side. And I was doing a study of the people that are representing us in the State House. If they're on the Democratic side, if they're a Democrat, they've, on average, have been there for 20 plus years as a Democrat. It's time, to be fair, it's time to start running people in that Democratic Party that are younger, that have more ideas, that they're progressive like you. I'm not saying you're a Democrat. I'm just saying that you're progressive, and you were talking about it being more minority driven in the House. They're all old people. They are all old and elderly. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I'm approaching that really quick.
Yeah,
hey, mind your business. But don't you think that it carries out? You got to go younger, because these people they're lifers. They've been there forever. That's what they do. I know they've got experience, but why not step down, mentor, bring somebody else in, and then go to a city instead of working in Montgomery like Frankie used to. Now he's working in a city. He's helping develop a city. You know, there's a lot of experience and a lot of jobs out there that people that have been at the State House for 20 plus years could do to help small cities and still be in service.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean, you guys, you know the history just like I do. In 1901, and I mean, it's in the minutes. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were very specific. You know, this whole process is designed to accentuate white supremacy and establish it. It's to disenfranchise minorities, women, and poor people.
We're talking about really how the districts are zoned.
The state constitution.
Yeah.
So that's why there's no home rule. It's why before we institute any legislation that impacts our city, we have to petition and get the approval of the delegation. Yeah. So they never intended. They saw what happened after Reconstruction or during Reconstruction, when when the former slaves united with the Democratic Party, with the Republican Party at the time, and started to take elective office and so again, I wouldn't call them smart, but indeed clever in terms of just how they structured our politics in Alabama, and it's impacted us for hundreds of years now, and it'll continue to do so. So it's why we have to fight things like the abolition of our occupational tax. Because for whatever reason they don't think we have sense enough to do it locally, and that again very unfortunate.
So you're talking about a white senator from Cherokee County making a decision to do away with your occupational tax?
Indeed, that's exactly what I'm referring to.
Make sure everyone understands.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's just it's unfortunate. That
Deverick should be in radio. His segues, he just sets them up for. I mean, just just.
So I think this is something we can all get behind. Sam's Club in East Gadsden. Come on.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Send your letters. Make your phone calls.
You were gonna say write your
phone
senator,
calls.
but
honestly, I don't
write your senator.
I don't think retail is where we struggle. Lisa Osmond does a great job. I think we're attractive because we draw from a 5 to 7 county radius. We're attractive.
But let's talk about the decision of going Gander Mountain when we could have had a Sam's Club. I think that's well documented. Sam's Clubs wanted to come here. We chose to go Gander Mountain, bankrupt. It's a beautiful area right there. We need
it really is beautiful.
We need a big, store there. We need something that's going to draw people like a Sam's Club. People in my ear all the time. That's what I'm talking about. I'm taking your constituents. I'm putting their issues on you.
Well, let's be fair now. It wasn't an either or. It was and I don't know how serious Sam's was about coming, because obviously you got to know. I mean, reasonable minds, right?
We have businesses done in Oxford. I ain't gonna name names, but very shrewd business person in Oxford gave them a much better offer to build in Oxford.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, now that part is true.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And
100%.
so, but again, that has not a whole lot to do with the city in regards. I mean, I think we would have done whatever we could legally do.
If you look, that's the key.
I think that also, exactly. I think you got to look at how Oxford structured the city versus council versus the way city Gadsden.
They've got much more money than we do.
Well, that's true.
I mean, they don't have they have a volunteer fire, or at least up until just a few years ago, they had an all volunteer fire department, and that's a huge expense. Mm-hmm. And so we joke about how much cash Oxford's got. I mean, they really are loaded from that perspective. And so,
but just think, and I've been pushed to push. It's that all the tax money that people would drive from these different areas, instead of going to Huntsville, instead of going to Trustful, instead of going to Oxford, it would stay right here. Yeah. Cherokee County money would come down instead of going to Rome.
Don't disagree. You heard
it here. Deverick said he's bringing a sanitary. Vote Deverick Williams District 2.
Now the infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure in East Gadsden, we'd have to rework it.
It's collapsing.
We're there anyway, though, right?
Yeah, we're right there at the finish line.
Yeah. How close is the city and the state to coming together on getting the infrastructure in East Gadsden taken care of? But because I know it's going to involve state cooperation with Megan, and with George Wallace Drive. Is that what it's still called? I don't even know what it's called. George Wallace Drive. It needs to be named Deverick Williams Drive, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I can go along
but then
with
I travel. I live half a block from East Gadsden. I mean, I live right there in Tillerson Bend. And
on the white folks side.
On the white folks side. Well, I have black neighbors. Thank you very much. In your face. What matter of fact, he works with you.
He's like Jermichael Smith.
Yes, exactly. So thank you, J. Mike. Thank you, J. Mike, for moving to my community. So I drive Hoke Street every single day. I drive East Broad every single day. I stop at the little stores there just to go in and buy
Bishop,
water.
You mean?
Bishop no longer there, and it makes me so angry because I love Bishop Fruit Market.
God bless him.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, we used to sit on that little pew, Patrick Ferguson and I, outside Bishop's back in the 80s and ride our bikes down there. Hey, we were...
Move on.
Yeah, let that go.
Bishop, let me see. You mind your business. So you act like you know. Deverick knows. Anyway, it's tough, man. I mean, my truck gets knocked out of line. I mean, it's bad. So what's on the horizon for the community in District 2 real quick infrastructure wise?
Well, as I mentioned before, we're right there on the cusp. There are a lot of projects that have been approved and that are in the design phase now and are being let for, some of them even being let for resurfacing, to make sure that we are moving forward with a lot of the road resurfacing projects. The Eastern Corridor, the whole idea of changing the branding was politically shrewd, and I have to give Frankie Davis credit for that, because he understood that that the federal path was there was a lot less resistance, as opposed to going the state path with that, and so it really allowed us to move that forward a whole lot more aggressively, and I got that in reverse. The state path it was, but it allowed us to move that a whole lot, that path that forward a whole lot more aggressively, and so we're right there. I would expect there to be some level of announcement or addressing that in the coming months.
Great.
So we're excited. We're excited about that. A lot of work is still being done.
We just wanted to see if we could get you to say it now. But
and maybe I've said more than I should. But we're but we are indeed moving forward with that. And thanks to Governor Ivey and her office, we're getting a lot of support as it relates to that. But that work just didn't start yesterday.
Exactly.
I mean, we've been working on that for years.
Y'all are doing stuff.
Yeah, every now and then we'll manage to accomplish something.
So my last question before I let Jeff talk to you about your campaign and that kind of stuff. Who was your favorite Etowah County Commissioner? Is it Jeffrey Washington or is it Joey Statham? We know it's not John, we know it's not Johnny or Jamie Grant. So between Washington.
By the way, Jamie, on your billboards, Jamie, did they put the whitening app on your teeth? Because we see you all the time.
It's a filter.
Oh man, I was coming home last night from seeing my grandbaby. Come over by that billboard, and I saw Ellie go. My wife goes, "Look at Jamie's teeth. Ain't none but teeth."
Well, he's got lights there.
Oh, that's what it is. Oh, yeah.
Safety
Okay.
issues. Safety issues.
I digress.
So,
wow.
Statham or Washington? You're not answering. Is it Washington or Statham?
Jeffrey's my guy. Absolutely.
So Jeffrey's in prison. You gonna visit him?
Absolutely.
That's a red flag.
I'll put money on his books.
Go ahead, Jeff. You can take the lead.
Tell everybody how you can they can reach out to your campaign, where they can find Deverick Williams for District 2 reelect.
Well, so the infrastructure hadn't been established at this point, but as it's been in the past through Facebook primarily, and there's a Councilman Deverick Williams Facebook page out there, and ways that you can contribute will be updated here in the upcoming months.
Perfect.
You can type in. I found your personal page this way. It's Williams Deverick, and it's Deverick, not like Jerry misspells it all the time. So it's Deverick Williams. You can find him on Facebook and anywhere. You got a great page on the City of Gadsden bio page. Tells about all of your experience and different accolades that you've had, boards that you've served on. We're just thankful that you came in and hung out with us, and we're just praise God that things are seemingly getting better on the health side for family, and we're praying for continued healing in that area.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you for a very comfortable setting to just have a dialogue. I'm not interested in talking about individuals. I just want to kind of set the record straight on a lot of different things and provide information where we can. Mm-hmm. So,
would you look at that camera and tell Thomas Worthy that it will be okay? Just come on in.
Thomas, they don't bite.
Jerry does, though, to be fair. Jerry does.
Only on the golf course.
Stay close, stay clean, love each other the way God loves you. And I can promise you, District 2 and all the other districts will be a whole lot better. Thank you, Deverick.